Hello guys, I'm Christopher. I'm simply going to try to illustrate or explain about market structure. In this video, we'll only focus on market structure, which is perfect competition and monopoly. I think to make the video short, we'll only talk about perfect competition, and I'll create another video that talks about a monopoly. Okay, so basically try to explain or illustrate what market structure is. We'll also talk about perfect competition as under market structure, like I've explained or like I've stated. Okay, so as you can see, or some of you would have wondered or have been wondering to say, what is this market structure? Of course, in some exam questions, you're going to find questions that are asking you to define what market structure is, and you define what it consists, the characteristics, and all those things. Okay, so just to give a brief explanation of what market structure is. So we define market structure as a system. It is simply a system on how um, firms operate under a market. Okay, it simply tries to explain the characteristics of a market and how those firms in that market operate or behave through it due to the number of firms, how easy it is to enter the market or how hard it is to move out from the market. It also tries to explain how the ability of those firms that are under that market can try to uh, produce different goods or services. Okay, so what do we mean when we say one characteristics of this market structure is the number of firms? So we can basically try to talk about how many firms are in this market. We can have a lot of firms, we can have few firms, we can have one firm, we can also have dominant firms in a certain market structure. Okay, so we can also try to talk about how easy it is, this part, how easy it is to enter the market or how hard it is to move out from the market. Okay, so what can make someone or a firm to come in the market? So we have barriers of entry, also have restrictions from the government. So if the government comes in, probably it can be hard for someone to enter the market, or it can be easier for someone to enter the market. Okay, so that is what we mean by that. And what do we mean when we say the ability of firms to produce different products or services? So what we mean is the capacity of the ability to produce identical goods or different goods or just unique goods is what we're calling, or that's what we're talking about here. So I'll dive in, like I mentioned, we'll just focus on perfect competition and a monopoly. Okay, that is what we expect to come in the exam, this 2026 exam intake for UNZA. Okay, so that is what we expect. So what is a perfect competition market structure? So defining this, I don't want you guys to make this seem to be hard or anything. Defining this, you can basically, if you know the characteristics of a perfect competition market structure, you can basically get the same characteristics and put them in a way that they will make sense and uh, seem like it's a definition. Example, you would say, we know that under a perfect competition we have a lot of firms, yeah? So we can just say a perfect competition is simply a market structure that has a lot of firms, or that consists of a number of firms that are a lot. And this is a type of market structure that is a price taker. All the firms under a perfect competition are price takers because of what? There is easy entry to exit. Okay, so these guys have no choice but to take the price, because the price is basically made by the industry. So the only thing that they can manage to do is change the quantity. So with the same market price, they can produce whatever quantity they want, or they can sell whatever quantity they want with the same market price. So that is under the perfect competition. That is how we can define it. Okay, so what do we mean by taking or price taker? So as we have, I'm just from saying these guys, the market price is basically made by the forces of the supply curve. So we can just say there's a supply curve here and then the demand curve there, right? So we can have the supply, the market price there. So this is an industry, right? So this is an industry for the market, for the perfect competition. So these forces, if this one increases, it comes the other side, to the right hand side. You find that the price might also shift. Okay, even the demand curve, if the demand curve was to shift, maybe coming this side, even the price here will shift. So the forces of the supply curve and the demand curve determine how the market price is going to be. So the industries check how the forces of the industry are being held and how they are. Okay, and probably they put the market price because of using the forces for the supply curve and the demand curve. Okay, so we're going to move to the demand curve of the firm. So how is the demand curve of a firm under a perfect competition? So the demand curve of a firm under a perfect competition, you're going to find that it is horizontal. Okay, so as you can see, this is a market which can also be called an industry. This is the market. Since these guys, the firms are always too small. They're mostly small, so they have no influence on the market price. So you find that the market price is going to be determined by these forces. Okay, so if this one goes high, maybe it comes there, it moves the other side, and this one also moves the other side. You find that the market price is going to be there, right? And then just like that. So the market price is going to be determined by these two forces. Okay, so the demand curve is going to be horizontal like that, because under perfect competition, there is easy entry and exit. Okay, so a firm can choose to produce any quantity at this given market price, but it cannot change, or it cannot increase or decrease the market price, because if it was to do that, it would rather make me losses, or no one is going to buy from them. Okay, so that is how the demand curve is under the perfect competition. Okay, so why the firm's demand curve is horizontal? So here, no need to think much. The reason is very simple. Okay, so the reason is that the same characteristics of a perfect competition can be the reason why the demand curve is horizontal. So the first one, was saying that the market contains a large number of firms. Of course, there are a lot of firms and they're small, so no one has influence on the market price. So for that reason, all the firms, if they decide to come in the market, they have to follow the market price, because they have no influence. No one can come in and say, okay, with me, I'll start selling this good at a higher price. No one can do that, because no one is going to buy from them. There are a lot of firms that you can go to. Okay, so firms sell identical goods. Of course, here they're not practically the same, but they're identical goods and services. So you find that there's this person that is selling tomatoes, right? There's another person that is selling tomatoes, right? And then maybe we can say that there's another person selling onion or something like that. Goods are identical, but they're not exactly the same. The quantity can be the same, and the other quantity cannot be the same. Remember, we said that at the same market price, a firm can decide to sell as much quantity as it wants. Okay, it can reduce the quantity or it can increase the quantity for it to drag in customers or consumers. Okay, so the buyers and sellers have full information about the prices charged by all the firms. So you are going to find that the buyer has the full information about what is being sold and how much it is being sold. So they cannot go to the seller and tell them to say, no, I want something for 15 kwacha, and then the seller says, okay, this thing is 25 kwacha, and then the seller expects this buyer to buy, because they have the information. Okay, so this one won't buy, they'll go to another person. So same applies to the seller. If the seller knows to say, the buyer knows that the price is 15 kwacha, the buyer can't go to the seller and say, no, sell me this thing at 10 kwacha. No, because the seller will refuse, knowing that he or she knows that the seller, I mean the buyer knows that the price is not 10 kwacha. So that is that. Okay, transaction costs. So under the perfect competition, there are no transaction costs. What we mean is these transaction costs are costs that you could have paid if you are moving. Maybe, for example, you go by a shop that is at Manda Hill, right? You go at Manda Hill. You want to buy something from Manda Hill, right? Then you find that you don't have that thing, or maybe it's expensive. So you want to move from Manda Hill to East Park. The amount that you're going to pay, to pay maybe for the bus fare or something like that is what we're calling transaction cost manje. Or maybe you find that under this perfect competition, you find that firms are just close to each other. So a buyer can just move from here to there. So there are no transaction costs here. So firms, there is free entry and exit, like I just mentioned. There are no barriers to entry. Any person can just wake up in the morning and decide to say, okay, I'll start selling freezits or fritters or any other thing that you decide. You don't have to pay anyone any licenses or anything. You can start um, producing whatever you want to produce at a given time. Okay, so I think we've explained all these things that are here. Let us move on. Okay, so profit maximization. So a firm under a perfect competition maximizes its profit at the point where marginal cost, okay, let us say marginal revenue is equals to marginal cost. But remember that under perfect competition, marginal revenue is the same thing as price. So for that reason, you find that a firm is going to produce its maximum profit maximization is going to be at the point where price is going to be equals to marginal cost, not at the point where marginal revenue is equals to marginal cost. So this is the condition that we follow. Okay, so a firm can also, this is a point where a firm has to choose the output where a firm is going to produce. So given this output point, it can produce, okay, let me just illustrate a bit. Okay, let's say we have something like this. So let us say this is the optimal, or this is the point for this so let's say this is marginal cost, and that's the price. And then we've chosen to say this is the point. So a firm can produce all the quantity from this side to here. If it crosses to start producing this side, it will start making losses, but it can only produce quantity that is at this point. Okay, that is what we mean. And this is the condition that we follow. I mean, this condition. Okay, so that is that. So how does a firm, under economics, we assume that each firm that is going into the market always tries to maximize what? Profit. If a firm is there not for the profit maximization, we consider that person to be, or that firm to be irrational production. So probably they're not rational, they are irrational, because all the firms are supposed to be producing for the case of making what we call as profit. And profit is found by pi, which is profit, total revenue, that is found minus total cost. Okay, so this is the formula for finding profit. Okay, let us move on. Okay, I think we've explained this part. Okay, so competition in the short run. Okay, so competition in the short run. So you're going to find that a perfect competition in the short run will have to decide when to produce, right? It will also have to decide when to shut down. That is when now the the shutdown point comes in, and then the output decision comes in. A firm has to make two decisions: when to shut down and how to choose what the set of the production that it has to be producing. So that is how we follow the illustrations and everything that is there. Okay, let me just scroll down here. Okay, so this is the graph on the short run, or about the short run curve. So this is how it looks like. Probably here, as you can see, Okay, here the firm was making losses. Don't want to. Okay, let me just put it here, illustrate it from here. So we can assume that we have marginal revenue there, which is constant, which is equals to the demand curve, price, and average revenue as well, right? So if we're saying that our marginal revenue cost is like that, our average total cost is going to be there, which is always supposed to be above the average variable cost. So this is the average variable cost. So this is in the short run. We have to note that in the short run, 0 there, and then we have quantity there. So we have to note that in the short run, we have average variable costs, which means that we have a fixed cost and a varying cost, or fixed costs and variable costs under the short run. Okay, which means that a firm cannot just decide to shut down whenever it wants, because it has to think of those fixed costs that are there. Okay, remember that if a firm decides to shut down in the short run, the losses that it is going to incur are going to be equals to the fixed costs, because it will still have to pay the fixed costs that are there. So that is under the short run. So at this point, a firm is making profits, and these profits are called what? Abnormal profits, because at this point a firm is making profits. If the average total cost is below the market price, a firm is making abnormal profits. These are not normal profits. These are more than. For example, if you put in a 2 kwacha and you're deciding to produce something, or let me say you buy something at 2 kwacha, right? Then someone comes in and tells you to say, okay, sell me at 10 kwacha each. This is abnormal. You don't expect to sell something that you bought at 2 kwacha, 10 kwacha. You expect to sell it maybe at 3 kwacha or maybe 4 kwacha. This is normal profits. But if you sell it at that point, it will mean that that's abnormal. Okay, so abnormal profits can only be found under the perfect competition, under the perfect competition in the short run, not in the long run. Okay, so since we're basically talking about the perfect competition, so that is what has to be illustrated, or that is what you have to know. Okay, so we can also have a situation where the average average total cost is above the market price. As you can see, it is now up above the market price. So here a firm is making losses, but it is still able to cover up its costs. So here a firm cannot shut down because it is able to cover its variable costs, okay, and other costs it can also cover up. Okay, so if we have the average total cost to equals to it comes equals there, it will mean that we're going to move out from the long run, from the short run going to the long run, because this is the condition that we have under the long run. In the long run, we know that a firm is always supposed to produce at a point where price is equals to marginal cost, which is equals to what? Marginal revenue. So this is the condition under the perfect competition. Okay, long run. Okay, so now let us just talk about what condition we have to follow when the firm has to shut down, when the firm has to keep producing, and why is it so. So we can follow a condition or conditions starting when a firm should produce under the short run. So if the price is above the average variable cost, a firm should continue producing because it is able to cover all its variable costs. If the price is below the average variable cost, a firm should shut down because it is unable to cover its costs. If the price is above the average total cost, it means that a firm is making supernormal profits or abnormal profits. If the price is below average total cost, it means that a firm is making losses. Okay, so now with this pattern that is here, you are going to notice that average variable cost is the one that determines when a firm should shut down or when the firm should continue producing. And then with this part here, average total cost is the one that determines when a firm should will make supernormal profits or make losses. Okay, so this is how we illustrate this, and that is how you have to know it. Okay, So moving on to the supply curve, I think so. Okay, so the supply curve. So the supply curve for the short run, you're going to find that under the short run, for the firm is going to have a supply curve that is upward sloping. Okay, so this is for the firm, right? So the addition of all the supply curve is always going to be the addition of all the firms that are in that particular market. Okay, so you're going to find that for a firm, a single firm is going to have a supply curve that is upward sloping like that. And then for the market is also going to have a supply curve that is upward sloping because of what? So the reason the demand curve, I mean the supply curve for a perfect competition short run is upward sloping is because of the law of diminishing marginal returns. The law of diminishing marginal returns states that the more um, the variable costs are being, I mean the variable inputs are being added on to the fixed costs, the what's this the total costs that are going to be varying are going to be going high and high, and for that reason you're going to find that the marginal cost is going to be increasing, because in the short run we have variable costs and fixed costs, right? So it means that we're going to follow the law of diminishing marginal returns. I hope that is clear enough. Okay, so that is that. And then if we go to the perfect competition short run, under the short run, I mean in the long run, as I stated at first, a firm will decide only to shut down or continue producing. In the long run, you're going to find that it will continue producing if price is equals to marginal cost and equals to the marginal revenue, also equals to okay, let me just end here. So it will continue producing if this is the condition that we have under the long run. So now, when does it shut down? It will shut down when price is below the average uh, average total cost. By the way, we can also use this condition to say average total cost and equals to marginal cost. So this is the condition that can stand under the perfect competition long run to be a condition where a firm should continue producing, and this is where a firm should shut down. And then shutting down is permanently, not whereby it shuts down then it goes back to business. No. Okay. Okay, so the supply curve is going to, under the long run, the supply curve is going to be horizontal for the market. It will be horizontal for the market, but for the single firm, the supply curve is going to be upward sloping. Remember that here for the single firm, we're not going to follow the condition to say under the perfect competition long run we have both of the things varying. Here we'll consider to say we have one firm, right? The supply curve is still going to stand as upward sloping for the single firm, and then for the market it is going to be horizontal like this, because we're going to add all the firms that are in this market structure. Okay, so if we consider to say this is horizontal, what do we mean, or what is it causing it to be horizontal? So it is because of easy entry to exit and entry to the market. What do we mean by that? So you're going to find that these firms here are not constructed to anything. Yeah, you find that it is easy for any firm to come in and move out from the market structure. I mean, from the market, it is very easy for any firm to come in and move out. And then you find that if a firm comes in and decides to increase the market price, no one will buy from them. And then if someone comes in and reduces the market price, they'll just be losing. They have no reason to reduce the market price. So they're just forced to follow the market price. And for that reason, since the market price basically comes from the industry, remember I mentioned that the forces of the supply curve and the demand curve are the ones that determines the market price. So all the firms are going to follow this market price that is here. Okay, so because of easy entry and exit, the market supply curve for the perfect competition long run is going to be horizontal like that. A firm can choose to supply whatever quantity it wants, but it cannot increase the market price. Okay. Okay, like I had mentioned, we're only going to talk about the perfect competition in this video. You can subscribe to it and click the notification button so that you're not left out on any other video. So we'll continue on this monopoly. If you reach this far and managed to watch this full video, thank you for watching. You can basically comment in the comment section why you're lost, why you need quality or quality or any other things that you feel like you need clarity on. Make sure that you share the video with your friends. This is Christopher. Have a blessed night. Thank you for watching.